Off. What's up, guys? Hopefully, know who am. I am Zap, your Renew Nashville and membership program manager here at the EC. Thanks for tuning in today. In this cold weather, come visit us. It's been quiet this week on Zoom and in person. No one's coming into the building, so come visit me. I'm lonely. I guess everyone's busy doing their holiday shopping or quarantining for the holidays, which I do understand as well. Anyways, super excited to have Emily from Yelp. They've been all over town. Yelp has been getting really involved here in Nashville, and she just has a lot of resources to share. So thank you so much, Emily, for joining us. She's zooming in all the way from Wisconsin, actually. Anyways, I'm going to hand things off to you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited about today because we have been working in the Nashville area for a while, and this presentation is really great because it features some Nashville businesses in a variety of industries. So my goal in today's presentation is to walk you guys through some examples as well as key actionable resources that you can use to prepare not only to reopen, but also just communicate as we go into 2021. And, I think 2020 was all about pivoting, and I sure hate that word by now, but I think that was kind of what we were all up to during 2020. And now 2021 is really about leaning into the things that you know are going to work or the changes that you've made to continue to serve your customer base during this time. So my goal today is to talk about not only some of the Yelp free tools that can be really helpful for you to communicate and get the word out, but also other resources as far as social media and online reputation management, even just beyond Yelp. So we'll cover a variety of things, and I'll use a lot of Nashville examples that'll hopefully spark some ideas for you. If you do want to connect with me, I'm going to leave time for questions today. So feel free to chat them in, or if you want to answer them at the end, on video, we can do that as well. But you can also jot down my email. I've been with Yelp since 2014 and presented on behalf of the company all over North America. Normally, I travel quite a bit when it's not COVID. So tons and tons of business owners have my email address, and they'll sometimes email me a week after I present, a year, a few years. So if you or anyone that you know ever has Yelp questions, don't hesitate to reach out. If I don't have the answer, pretty rare, I have a lot of the answers, I can normally connect you with someone at the company who does. So jot that down if you need it. I will also share it at the end when we transition to questions. 2020, whenever I start presentations, I just acknowledge everything that we've all been through, whether it's personally or professionally. This year's really kicked a lot of us down. And, I know in Nashville in particular, you guys have been incredibly challenged, not only with the tornadoes at the beginning of the year, but then those handful of power outages that you guys went through. And it's just been incredible to get to know business owners in your guys' community and see the resilience that you guys have had. And I know you see it around yourselves as well, but just remember to acknowledge everything that you've been battling, juggling, and going through, and kind of looking at some of those highlights or positive things that might have come out of this year. So hopefully that's what we can do today, is maybe shed a light on some of those and get you thinking about what you've been doing, new things you can try, but also just get a little positive energy about where you guys are at after, these past 9 months, and where you're going in these next 9 months as well. So this is Dave of Goodwood, Nashville. I love sharing his story because they made some huge pivots. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them, but they basically take old wood, whether it's from barns or old buildings, and they refinish it and refurbish it. They do a lot of options, so custom pieces, as well as just being able to go into their warehouse and pick out pieces or slabs that you want to use yourself. And they're really connected in the restaurant industry in Nashville. They do a lot of custom flooring and really cool designing in different spaces, restaurants, retail places. And so originally, when the shutdown happened, they shut down their physical brick and mortar. And so much of their men's work is to create things in their warehouse and then install them in homes. And so that was all paused right in March in the very beginning. And Dave didn't know what he was going to do. Him and I have done a few interviews together that have turned into a handful of pieces. And I'll be honest, we've been on videos with each other before where we've both been crying. He's telling me, these stories of what they were going through and how he had to tell everyone they were, let go in those beginning weeks. And then they ended up doing this Nashville Strong campaign. And if you guys have seen some of those Nashville Strong signs around town, that's Dave's team's work. And they were able to create enough work at the time building those signs to have guys in the warehouse safely and comfortably doing their job. And Dave told me, at the end of this, they had raised nearly $60,000. The signs were $50. And when you bought them, you could donate that to any business in Nashville. So they were able to help everything from restaurants to dog walkers to, any small coffee shop in your area or whatever it may be. And really, Dave wasn't making any money in this, but he was getting a lot back in not only good feeling and connection in the community, but also just being able to pay his guys and keep the doors open at a rate that was at least supporting itself. And so I love to tell that story because during that time, so much positivity happened. And then they were able to safely reopen. And you can see here on Dave's Yelp page, a couple of key things right in the center. We see this COVID-19 update message. Every Yelp page has the ability to modify that as a business, and then also add these services and safety measures. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Let's transition here quickly to Blowout Co. What they did after their 72 days of being closed was actually reopen with additional services that they had never offered before. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Leslie and her story, but she was a teacher in Nashville, went on vacation once to LA, saw a Blowout bar. She had never heard of it before. And for those of you who don't know, it's not a place you get your hair cut or colored or anything like that. You just go in to have it styled. And it's an affordable thing for women to do. It makes them feel good. Sometimes they'll do it before a special occasion or an event. And so she brought this concept to Nashville and opened the first Blowout bar in Nashville. She now has 3 locations. And like I said, they were shut down for 72 days. And then when they reopened, they realized with the different rules and regulations about capacity and social distancing, they weren't going to make it if they just blow dried hair moving forward. So they started doing makeup, they started doing waxing, they started offering different services where they could generate revenue as well as bring more customers in, but keep everyone safe, socially distanced, and masked. And that was really important in her ability to reopen, bring her team back, and generate enough revenue to do simple things like pay the rent. The last example I'm going to give just to open us up here with those different industry ideas and pivots and motivation is Cupcake Collection. And Mignon, she is so fun. Man, I've had a great time getting to know her. They are an incredible business where you can go in and really see this cool decor and have a fun experience. I just picture in a pre-COVID world, a lot of, touching and tasting and all of that. And so they had to pivot pretty hard. Mignon was saying the celebration must go on. That was kind of her theme of COVID. But simple things like blowing out candles on a cake are just not something that we're doing or feeling comfortable with in 2020. So their pivots not only looked like things like personalized packaging for cupcakes of 1, 2, or 6, but also doing day of local delivery as well as now national delivery. So really big pivots there in their business. And Mignon always talks about these pivots and changes being things that have worked in short term to serve the needs of their customers, but are also providing long-term opportunities for new and unique revenue streams. And that's what I want to talk about here. I'm sure many of you had tried different things in 2020. Maybe right away you were doing short-term solutions to get your business generating revenue or getting in front of customers. But now as we go into 2021, I want us to think about some of those longer term solutions. I want you to think about services or offerings that you may have provided in these past 7 to 9 months that are going to help you in the future. Let me give you one more quick example. I have a boxer puppy. I guess he's not a puppy anymore. He's about 2 now. And he was having these hives a few weeks ago, and I had to take him to the vet. And the vet is doing these new things now where I have to pull into the parking lot, I call them, they come out and they get the dog from the car, right? So I don't even go inside anymore. They call me after they look at him, tell me what they're thinking, ask if I'm okay with, what they're going to move forward with. I pay over the phone. And as I was leaving, driving away with my dog after the appointment, I thought, I'm going to be honest, that was easier than when I used to bring him inside myself. I used to be in the lobby, like trying to hold this 70-pound wild dog. And now I just sit in my car the whole time. And so your businesses might have modifications that in the beginning felt kind of like a pain, but maybe your customers are identifying things about that new process that are great for them and things that you can do and maintain in the long term. So just a couple examples here on the screen in front of you to kind of get those wheels turning. Maybe you're doing gift cards, prepaid options. Holidays are great for that, right? Can we push any sort of gift cards? What technology can you maybe use to manage different things like carryout or curbside? If you are in the restaurant space, you might already have apps or platforms that you were using to manage waitlist or reservations that you can repurpose to do different things for you now, like managing pickup. Also looking at selling larger volumes of signature items or maybe holiday items. So is there something new you can sell or something existing you can sell that will expand during the holidays? And you guys, I just want to pause there and say, think about your customer, right? Every single one of your customers, no matter what industry you're in, had some inconvenience in working with you in 2020, right? Whether it was a canceled event, whether it's the inability to be indoors, whatever it is that is creating friction between you and your customer because of COVID, there's a way to address that for them, right? So they're bummed out, for example, that they can't have their wedding this year or be at your restaurant with all their friends celebrating between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So think about how they're missing something and then figure out how you can serve that need or insert yourself to fill the void of where you're both not able to connect right now. And then communication. I'm going to hit on this all throughout this presentation, but the key to winning during COVID is communication. It needs to be clear, concise, and consistent. So keep it simple. Are you open? If you are, when are you open? What are you offering? And how can I begin this transaction? Do I need to go to your website? Am I calling you? Talk to me about the easiest way to start supporting you. Because the biggest wave of positivity we've seen in 2020 is a huge insurgence in people wanting to support local. So if you show them how to do it, they are going to come flocking, especially right now during the holidays. That is a big thing that we've seen over and over. People want to support local, so get yourself in front of them. And on Yelp in particular, I'm just going to show you a few free features to do that. The COVID-19 banner is the most important. It's modifiable by you as the business owner, and it is free to modify. So you want to log in to business.yelp.com or claim your page if you haven't already. And this is a banner that's right on the top of your page, whether you're on desktop or mobile. So if you're a Yelp user, normally you've probably seen these banners during the holidays, for example. Normally it's just a reminder like, hey guys, it's a holiday. Make sure this business is open and operating. But right now it is modifiable and we want you to point the customer to your most important information. So you can even modify your COVID-19 banner weekly if you have different weekly things that you want to promote or point out. We also have these coronavirus safety measures. And you guys, let's take it way back to April, right? Consumers, when they were able to go back out into the world and start to go to places, but in a different way, they had these questions. They wanted to know if masks were required, if social distancing was enforced. And so we saw them doing searches for things like Italian restaurant curbside pickup. These were new terms and phrases that they were searching for. And so we said, you know what? We can't let you search in a sea of keywords like we do for a regular Yelp search. We need to let business owners tell this information front and center. So when you log in, it's going to prompt you to fill this stuff out, but take those 5 minutes, fill out what your COVID offerings are. And you know what? While you're doing this, I always recommend getting a little sticky note, okay? As you're filling it out, masks required, for example, you check that box, right? Because it's a law right now in your guys' area, mine as well. And then on your sticky note, write yourself a little note, mask post, Instagram, Facebook. Okay. And then you're going to find 5 or 10 minutes later this week to do a post on Instagram or Facebook that shows your business owner or your business employees wearing masks, shows customers wearing masks. Maybe they're handing something, maybe they're just in the store, but visually spread that message about your safety measures on multiple platforms, not just on Yelp. Okay. You want to do it on Google. You want to do it on Facebook. You want to do it on Instagram. And while we're talking briefly about Instagram here, I also need to point out on your business description in your Instagram profile, make sure you have that key information. Are you open? What are your hours? I cannot tell you how many consumers want to spend money with a business and they turn to places like Yelp or like your Instagram profile or like Google to verify hours, to check things like website for additional information. So make sure you have that information accurate on those multiple platforms, okay? And when you're going back and doing this, you guys can reference these slides, right? You can go through your little checklist, our website, our Yelp page. Just keep that consistent checklist and think about that as you're spreading this message. So here are some great examples, bringing us back to Blowout Co, pardon me. We have two separate things that I want to highlight here. On the left-hand side is the announcement that they were reopening. And they did a very lengthy announcement. This was a multi-image post. This is just the first of it. And they're giving me all of the information. Now, let me tell you, everyone's not going to read all of this, right? Some people are just going to see May 25th. That's an important date that jumps right out at me. Some of them are going to read all of these details. So keep that in mind. The comfortability and the safety of your customers and what they feel level wise or comfort wise is going to be different. So do the work to give the full picture and then follow it up with additional resources to reinforce that message. So on the right hand side, we are open, we're operating. There is a woman in our business. She got her hair done. That could be you, right? Show them through social how you're operating. And I think a big misconception in the beginning of COVID was, we don't want to be in your face about it. We don't want to be sanitizing in front of the customers and doing all these things. We want them to feel comfortable. Not anymore, you guys. Comfortable is sanitization. Comfortable is masks for many of your customers, not all. And we don't even need to get into a back and forth on this call about that. But the bottom line is so many of the consumers right now are ready to go back and spend and support, but they want to see certain things. And putting that in places like social media, you'd be amazed how many people you reach directly that way. So on the left-hand side here, another example of that really full detailed list that Blowout Co is giving people to reference. It's giving me all the information I need, how to make appointments, how to pay. I can see everything here. On the right-hand side, this is just Dave being Dave. He posted this sign to the outside of their store because he told me, you know what, Emily, when we first reopened, I was battling people and it was horrible. I was battling people, telling them to put masks on before they came in my business. And I thought I might not even reopen because it wasn't even worth arguing with people. And then I thought, you know what, there's a different way for me to do this. I'm going to put a picture of my son. He has asthma. I'm going to be really in their face. I want them to know why it's important to me that in this business, we are following these precautions. And I just show this as a way to empower you guys to do what is your feeling, okay? It's your business. Obviously, you have to follow laws, right? But beyond that, whether it is the message that Dave is sending or a different message, I think you can use things that connect with your customers, things that are personal to communicate messages, whether it's about masks or other things. And that's just a note here as well to take a pause and highlight the fact that 2020 has created a lot of openness when it comes to what businesses are sharing on social media. I've seen a lot of, pulling behind the curtain and letting your customers see how you're operating, what you're facing, what you're doing to serve them and be available to support and be there for your community. And I think consumers want to see that, and they engage with you when you communicate and show a little bit of that personality and personalization as opposed to always being polished. All right, let's talk about COVID related service offerings. These are really important because I know a lot of you have started providing virtual offerings, whether it's a virtual class, virtual consultations, whatever it might be. And the key point here, you guys, is if you are going back to in person, maybe my real estate agents on the call, let's say, maybe you're doing some in person showings nowadays. If you are still open to and available for virtual offerings, you want to have that checked and indicated both on Yelp as well as other places on Instagram, on your website, because again, we're going to have a percentage of consumers who are not going to be comfortable with in person quite yet. And if they're searching for virtual offerings only, you want to be relevant and show up in those searches if that's something that you're open to, if that's something you're offering. Great example, right? We have Mignon here doing nationwide shipping and day of delivery in Nashville. She's shouting this from the rooftops frequently on social media, okay? She didn't do one post saying nationwide shipping. This is something we need to remind customers every week, because you know what? I might not have cared about this last week, but tomorrow's my birthday. So I hope someone in my family has found a way in Milwaukee to send me some sort of bakery tomorrow. We'll see. But I know that an Instagram post for me would have maybe attracted me this week, as opposed to a few weeks ago, maybe it wouldn't have grabbed my attention, right? So if you have these new offerings, whether they're virtual or curbside or different services that you've started providing during COVID, communicate it, communicate it again, communicate it again. And here's just another example. Here are those Nashville Strong signs I was telling you about. We also see in the upper left-hand corner tornado tables. One of the many stories that Dave told me that got me tearing up. His daughter had a favorite tree in their yard that got struck down during the storm, and he couldn't believe it. She had asked during the storm, do you think the tree will be all right? He said, for sure, it was a big tree. And it wasn't, it didn't make it. And she asked him, Dad, would you make me a bedside table out of my tree, when they saw it the next day? And he thought, you know what? She's not going to be the only one. A lot of people have lost not only a lot of trees, but a lot of other things in this tornado that you guys were hit with. And so he started going around town marking trees to save, shipped them all off to get them treated. And when we had been talking, this was about 2 months ago now, some of the original lumber had just started coming back from March, and they were going to begin to build these tornado tables. So he started posting about it on social, and also sharing their customers when they would put a picture of themselves on social media with their sign out front, or representing if they drove by their favorite place in town that had the sign up. So think of that as well when you're putting things out into the world during COVID, and doing these things to tie the community together. I'm sure your customers are sharing it, whether it's on their own Instagram or otherwise. And if you have the opportunity to either dedicate some time every day yourself to log in and reshare some of that stuff, or get someone on your team, or if you have a daughter, a son, if you have a niece or a nephew, think about ways that you can maybe get some more time online to engage with the community and connect those dots of what you're doing to not only promote to other potential customers, but continue that connection with your current customers when we can't all be together the way that we normally would. All right, I'm going to transition and breeze through some free and paid tools on Yelp. There's just a few paid ones that I mention as communication features. The reason that I point them out here is twofold. One, on Yelp in particular, so much has changed with our paid features in the past few years, but the biggest new change is that everything is modifiable and custom set for you, so you can log in and play around with things, whether it's setting up actual ad budgets or turning on little visual features and changes to your listing itself. So I'll talk about a few of those briefly. And I also let people know When you're playing around in that business user account, click through. There are a ton of things you can do, everything from updating your page, like we'll talk about, to communicating things out. So, getting first and foremost those special offerings and services up to date, like we talked about, are going to be really important. If you haven't already claimed your business page, it takes about a minute to go through the claiming process. You can do it at yelpnashville.com or biz.yelp.com or business.yelp.com, any of them. They'll all take you there. We also have an app, it's free. We always mention this because I know for me personally, if it wasn't COVID, I don't sit at a laptop all day. That app is much easier for me to make updates or respond to messages, for example. So, depending on your industry, you might find yourself wanting to use that. I'm just going to show you here what it looks like when you log into that free business owner's account. Okay. So you're going to see an actual graph in front of you every time, and it'll show you up to 2 years of activity, depending on how long your listing has been around. It'll show you drilling down all the way to by the day, if you'd like, how many people are looking at your page, as well as other actions they take on your page. Do they click through to your website? Do they call you from the phone number on your page? What are they doing when they look at your page? But for you, when you first log in, whether you've already claimed your page or you're setting it up for the first time, the first section you want to go to is business information, okay? And in this section, you can update your name, your address, all of the basic things. If you're adding your business for the first time, including a link to your website or any digital presence, that could be a Facebook page, a website, etc., that'll help your business page get verified faster. But then categories are super important here, okay? You can be in up to 3 categories on Yelp. Some good examples: if I'm a Italian restaurant that also has a bar with TVs, I want to be listed in sports bar and Italian because those are 2 very different customers, but I can serve both of their needs. Same if you're a real estate agent and you also help with mortgages, you would want to be in both of those categories. Hours are going to be extremely important, especially during COVID, you guys. If you have operating hours, you want to list them not only on our site, which will automatically update for you on Bing, Yahoo, Apple Maps, etc., but make sure it's right on Google. Make sure you have it included in your Instagram description, okay? Get that hour set up in as many places as you can. On Yelp, you can indicate special hours. So if for the holidays, for example, things are going to be changing for you, log into Yelp, set those special hours for as far in advance as you'd like. And on the week of, your Yelp page will reflect those holiday hours. The key thing here, if you're by appointment only or open 24 hours, is to indicate that, because when users search for those specific things, or even sometimes like open now, you will only appear if you have your hours completed. So even if you're by appointment only, I recommend putting some guidelines of office hours on there so that you show up in searches. I think a good example is like a dentist, for example. When I used to work in sales and I had to be certain places for certain hours of the day, I could only go to appointments in the evening. So when I moved to new cities, I would have to search for dentists that were open after 6 p.m. And you'd be surprised, but some offices specifically serve those hours. So they're open like 12 to 8 and they do cleanings in the evening and things like that. So if you're a niche business, niche industry, or have unique hours, especially during COVID, make sure you have those updated. And then on your Yelp page, everyone can fill out the further information: specialties, history, meet the owner. Any of the keywords and phrases you incorporate in this section will help you appear in search results. Okay, so the best way I can describe this is, if I search for Mexican food before I go to lunch today, and my boyfriend searches for fish tacos, we'll see relatively similar business results, but the search for fish tacos is going to put businesses higher that have reviews or photo captions or business descriptions that mention fish tacos. So, what are your fish tacos? What are your specialties? What are your services that really set you apart? How can you make sure you have those keywords included here? Also, I think I said it before I went into this section, but just so you know, everything I'm talking about is free unless I mention it's paid. And that's really important because about 80% of the things you can do on your Yelp profile are free. So this section, filling everything out, this is free and it's going to help you appear in those search results. Okay. Same thing when we talk about photos and videos. You can upload an unlimited amount of photos from your business user account. And if you need some inspiration, if you're not a restaurant and you don't have a ton of food photos, for example, here's some good ideas. You want pictures of your team. If you have a brick and mortar, show us that. Maybe you're in a strip mall or you're in an area where I have to navigate to get to your business. Show me that. Take a couple of pictures of how I'm going to get into your business. And then services or specialties. What do you offer? How can we visually show that? And you know, I tell my plumbers, I tell my roofers, it might seem boring to you, but these images are important when someone is looking for someone to fix their kitchen sink, when they're looking to get a new roof installation. So show those images of who you are and what you do. If you are a service-based business, you want to set up a service area. And in many of our service-based businesses, you also want to indicate services offered. So categories are going to give you a bucket of a bunch of services. This one in front of us is going to be car auto repair services, for example. So not everyone offers all types of auto repair, right? Not everyone offers all services within your service category potentially. So log in and under categories, when you add that, you'll see the services offered expand if that is a part of those categories. And then the service area, the way you want to think about this is you will set your city and zip code, but you won't need a physical address, right? If you don't have a brick and mortar. And then your service area is going to be your 5 furthest points that you're willing to travel. So if you're located in Nashville, think about how far north, give me a suburb. How far south, give me a suburb. East and west, give me these suburbs, all right? And then it's gonna show me a blanket essentially on the map of where you're willing to travel. And when people do services in those different areas, you'll appear in those searches. All right. Now, you also want to make sure that, especially during COVID, you're offering multiple channels of communication. And this might be a lot to keep up with and might seem overwhelming, but I promise you, when you set up these systems and then begin to monitor if you're getting leads or connections through them, you'll be able to evaluate where you want to spend your time. Okay. So some consumers are going to want to do full interaction, whether that's getting information, booking, etc., online. They probably don't even want to hop on a phone call sometimes. Whereas some customers, they want to talk to that person, right? They want to hear what's going on. Now, every industry doesn't need to offer everything. Let's be a little bit smart about our industries, right? There are some industry norms when it comes to communication, but think about opportunity to connect with those people. And what I mean is on Yelp in particular, for example, if you turn on your email notifications, in many of our categories, we have what's called a request a quote button. Sometimes it'll be called message the business, depending on your industry. But again, this is free. Okay. All you have to do is have that messaging turned on because we don't want to put this button on business pages if the business owners aren't going to respond to them. So we need the notifications turned on. But this is a button that goes right on the front of your Yelp page, and it allows customers to either ask questions, book with you, begin a conversation, whatever it may be, and it's free. All right. So when you're filling out your profile, when you're getting it all completed, these are the types of things that you want to activate. And we're not the only site that has these, right? If you're a real estate agent, maybe you use Zillow. I know Zillow has a messaging function. Okay. So think about these different platforms, these different funnels of opportunity for your business, and then activate especially the free tools, right? It's free. All right, let's bring it back to Mignon quick. I wanted to show her website because we have multiple options here. On the top, I see same day order. I have a phone number if I'm in Nashville or New Orleans. I have a call to action right in the center. The celebration is still on, order cakes. So if I want to talk to a person, boom, I'm calling a phone number. If I want to order online, done. I haven't even had to scroll on her website yet. This is the main page. And you see as well that it's easy to navigate there across the top to some different sections. So just think about that, whether it's your website, your Yelp page, your Instagram. Is it easy for me to access information if I'm interested in your business? And then when you are offering these multiple channels, we have to have some sort of response strategy, right? Because you're going to lose the conversation if you don't respond quickly enough. So have yourself or someone on your team set to get notifications or set to check at a certain time every day and respond. Now, I put a little note here on the bottom. I had done a presentation earlier this year with the Nashville Chamber about converting leads into sales. So I pulled a few of those notes over to this presentation, but persistence is key if you're in the service industry and you're following up, all right? One example as we approach the new year here would be CPAs or tax preparers. I personally started getting someone to prepare my taxes a few years ago, and I'm so glad I did, but I wasn't ready for that, or at least I didn't think I was the first year that I did the transformation. And so if you're getting ready to start pushing yourself out there as we get into a new year for taxes, put the feelers out there in January, as well as February, March, and even in April, those last days as we're leading into when taxes are due, right? Because people can still submit their requests for a delay and then they have 6 whole months to do it again. So that's just an example, but no matter what industry you're in, persistence, follow-up, or constant communication of the same message over and over can hit consumers at different points. This is an old reference point, but we used to always say that in marketing, you had to hit someone 7 times with a piece of information before they pick it up. And that was talking about things like when we would send mailers and stuff. But I think it's true now with social media as well, with your website as well. We want that message consistent across multiple places. Goodwood, just another example here of getting those options in front of them. We have the COVID-19 update saying that they can come in person. We have the request a quote button in the corner, oftentimes used for some of those bigger projects, but they really keep it simple here and give me a couple of alternatives. And then transparency is key. I think especially right now as people are unsure what normal is or what your operations might look like because of COVID, map out the process for them, set expectations, and then keep it to a back and forth minimum because you don't really have the time at the end of the day, right? You want to have those messages be as concise as possible to get the transaction to happen faster. So keep that top of mind. Make sure to remember that you're the expert. And as you try new things or fill certain voids that maybe a customer is having in COVID, continue to stay top of mind and stay connected with them after the fact as well. All right, I think I just have a few paid products here. This is business highlights. These are an opportunity to highlight certain things about your business. If you want to promote how many years you've been in business, for example, if you have emergency services, best price match, lots of different things that we saw businesses were interested in promoting. And those are a la carte as well as bundle available with ads. We also have this verified license feature. So for any of you who are in industries with licenseship, this is a really great way to reflect that. And we see it used a lot for home service providers who maybe don't have a lot of reviews, because oftentimes consumers don't need as much quantity of reviews to feel validated or confident in a decision with a home service provider, because it's different than a restaurant, right? So that verified license and those business highlights can be really great to create transparency and trust when you don't have as much review content. We also have portfolios. This is a really cool way for some businesses, if they're project-based, to really promote and highlight those projects above reviews. So all of these paid visual features that are available for your profile are giving you a chance to take more information and bring it to the forefront of what consumers are seeing. Just some examples here of different industries and how they use that feature. And these paid services are just, again, allowing you to visually prioritize things that you want a consumer to see at the top of your Yelp page. I think, oh, perfect. One last note here about reviews and how to use them as well as respond to them, and then I'll open it up for questions. So, word of mouth is free marketing, right? Many of you have probably been using word of mouth as marketing for years, and you still should. That will always be a marketing practice. But word of mouth online is reviews, right? That's what reviews are. And actually, on Yelp, nearly 80% of our reviews are positive. We have more 5-star reviews than 1, 2, and 3-star reviews combined. And I have to tell people that because so many businesses in the years that I've been doing this job tell me that they don't engage with online reviews because they're afraid of the negative. They're afraid of the complainers. And in fact, the positivity is far more likely to be what you're dealing with. And so we want to first talk about that. We want to amplify that. This is one example of Mignon and the Cupcake Collection sharing their reviews on Instagram. I just love this little template they have. It's so cute. It looks like I have a piece of tape and I stuck the review to a wall, but it's just an Instagram template that they use. I believe they share about a review a week, and it's not always Yelp reviews, right? They get Google reviews, they get Facebook reviews. So they share all different kinds of reviews, and sharing reviews is a great way to motivate and remind customers to leave you reviews and really let them know that you pay attention to them. And the key point I want to make there is you don't want to ask for Yelp reviews specifically. And the key reason is Yelp has a review recommendation software. It works to protect consumers and business owners alike, but it's looking at a variety of signals when it decides if it wants to recommend or not recommend reviews, such as what we know about the reviewer, how many reviews they've written, the contents of the review itself. So on Google, for example, you can just do a star rating. You can't do that on Yelp. You have to write a review, and we want it to be reliable, trustworthy, and helpful info. Now, the algorithm also looks for things like if reviews were asked for or solicited. And I'll give you one example. There was this guy I worked with in LA. He owned a couple of car washes, and he wasn't doing anything wrong. He wasn't trying to do anything wrong, but he had an iPad in his business that he was having people fill out while they were waiting for their cars to be done getting washed. And so every day he was having, 5 to 20 reviews probably written on these iPads while customers waited. And to the algorithm, it looked like all of these reviews are coming from the same device. So it didn't know the difference between this man sitting in his office and writing himself fake reviews every day or real people using the same platform on the same computer all the time to submit reviews. So those reviews kept getting not recommended. Another example would be if you send out like a newsletter, for example, and tell everyone to write Yelp reviews, sometimes that can tip off the algorithm because it's an abnormal flow in review content to your page. So just keep that in mind and know that other platforms are different, right? Like on Google, for example, they tell you that you're allowed to ask for reviews, and they even give you the resources to do that. So if there are other sites you use that encourage that, feel free to do that. But on Yelp in particular, you definitely do not want to do that. Think of more natural ways like sharing positive reviews or putting links to all of your review platforms on your website or in your email signatures. And that's another thing. If you say review us or check us out on, and then you provide all of your platforms where you're present, that's different because that's pointing consumers to a platform that they use or that they're more comfortable with. I'll open it up for questions now, but I also wanted to just point out, it doesn't look like I included a physical slide, but my advice for responding to reviews is to always respond publicly. Don't necessarily get into a back and forth with the reviewer, okay? Because we're really responding publicly to reflect your customer service practices and reflect who you are as a business. And so you want to acknowledge that they left feedback, thank them for that, maybe mention or address one part of it and kind of amplify your business practices, but then take that conversation offline. So whether it's sending them a direct message or giving them a way to get in touch with you, you're responding publicly to show that you read and respond to reviews and that you solve issues when they do arise. I'm going to put that yelpnashville.com link up there for you guys again. If you need to claim or start by adding your business to Yelp, that's a great place to go. I believe there's a special code for Nashville businesses. That's why we have this special website. So definitely feel free to use that. And then I'll throw up my email on the screen for while I answer these questions here. I also want to mention that our blog has really become quite excellent this year. We've really drilled down and spent a ton of time on content because we haven't been able to be in person hosting events with business owners like we normally do. And so there's everything there from free and paid tools on Yelp to even things like how to write a business plan, how to modernize a marketing strategy, tons of different things, and really cool stories and advice pieces from local businesses in tons of industries as well. So I recommend checking that out. Let me just see what I have over here. I think I saw one question earlier.
Yeah, Elmira, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sure. Okay, so my question is, I have a Yelp profile, but I just looked it up and noticed I haven't used it since 2016. And my business name has changed since then. What's
Yeah.
the best way to update without losing the old reviews and stuff like that?
Yep. So the page that's live right now, is the phone number that's on there accurate?
Um, I don't know. And it's showing that the business is closed because Yelpers reported that the location is closed.
Perfect. Okay. So then you'll want to email me. Do you need me to throw my email back up on the screen? I can.
No, I
Oh,
got
you
it.
got it?
I got it
Okay.
written down.
I put
So
it in the
send me an
chat too.
email to that. Oh, perfect. So send me an email to that Yelp page. And then if you just want to send me your new website and what the new name of the business is, I can work internally to get it updated. For those of you on the call, if you ever need to change your business name, for example, and are in a similar situation, what I was going to have her do if it wasn't marked as closed is just claim the page as it is right now. And then you can edit in the business information tab the name. And then the key point there is you have to include a web address, whether it's to your website or a Facebook page, et cetera, so that we can verify the new business name. But it should update no problem. The only time that we wouldn't allow an update and a saving of the reviews, for example, would be if, let's say there was a restaurant that was bought by another company and they changed the entire decor as well as like the type of food, etc. Then we would have to do new business pages. And the way we make those decisions, quote unquote, is if the consumer experience has changed. In the case of service providers, which I guess I'm making an assumption, but I would assume that that's the industry that you're in, then we keep
Yeah,
the
it
reviews because it's
is.
about you, right?
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be emailing you.
Perfect.
Awesome. What other questions do folks have? This was really great.
And if you guys don't have questions today, or if you want to ask or talk one-to-one about your business, please do feel free to reach out to me. I will tell you, I'm going to be on PTO tomorrow and Friday. So if I don't respond to you today, I'll get back to you first thing on Monday, I promise.
Yeah, I think hopefully people will reach out. A couple people at the beginning of the presentation were like, wait, what's her email?
Oh, good,
So I
good.
sent that out. No questions? I know, it's always tough.
That means I hit it all.
Honestly, you did. Seriously, this was awesome. Elmira,
Well,
do you have
good.
one
I'm
more
so
question?
glad.
No, but I just wanted to say this was super helpful in thinking about, like, my business is massage therapy, like thinking
Oh,
about different ways to communicate, especially with doing massages. People are like, I don't want nobody to touch me, or, because COVID regulations and stuff like that. But I've been in full operation since we were able to open at the end of May. But now listening to you, I think some people may not know that because I always get the question, are you open? Are you still open? So this was very good.
and for you, I know it might be a little tricky because you probably need your client's permission, but even if you could ask them, like, would you guys be okay with me taking a picture of you in the lobby with your mask or something and say, had a great treatment with so and so, we use these precautions. Like, I think that kind of stuff is great. In a similar vein, I have this place here. It's called a float studio. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but
Oh,
like,
yeah, those are wonderful. We have a couple here too. They're, yeah.
so I didn't know if they were open. I hadn't seen anything like on their Instagram or anything. And then I saw one of my friends posted that they were there. And I was like, oh my goodness, I wish they would have been putting, stories or pictures on their Instagram, because then I would have known sooner. So I think you're totally right. And it's hard to promote yourself, right? It's hard to talk about like, me, here's what I'm doing. But I think, especially as people get comfortable and especially as you're taking precautions, you'll have a lot of people who are interested and they maybe didn't even know that was something they could do safely and legally, which is good for you to inform them about, because that helps all
Right,
our
right.
mental health right now, which we all need for sure.
Oh, the people, all of my clients, well, the people I've been massaging, it's been way more stress than ever. It's, yeah.
Erin, did you have a question? I saw you unmute yourself. Do you have any experience with guiding live music venues and events or concerts toward reopening? And if so, can you speak just on your insights and experiences with that?
For sure. So that's a harder one. Absolutely. I think that's still something, I don't know about you guys, but I was watching a movie the other day, and to see people like at a concert or at a sports game, I'm like, oh my God, they're not wearing masks. And then I'm like, oh, this is like pre pandemic. So we're still getting a little used to it. But some things I've seen as very successful are these designated sections for attendees. So I'll give you an example. Dolores Park in San Francisco. It's a, big park where normally on the weekends, tons of people hang in the grass and play ball or listen to music or whatever it may be. And when COVID began, they took the whole park and they spray painted these circles all over the grass, and they were all, I think they did 8 or 10 feet apart. They wanted it to be further than 6. But these circles, if you could imagine, they would fit maybe 3 or 4 people in chairs or on a blanket. So, assuming that the people coming to the park were going to be only sitting with people that they're already with, maybe couples or families or friends who have decided they're in the same bubble. And I think if you begin to do that, but with very clear, distinct, designated spaces, you can see some great success. So another thing I've also seen is the opportunity to do virtual through these places and crowdfund or crowdsource. So still generating money or revenue, but doing a completely virtual option, or a combo of a little bit of both. So maybe it's hard for you to envision reopening at 30 or 50% capacity because you don't know how operationally it's going to make sense. But maybe there's a way to monetize on the in person at a limited capacity and then capitalize on a lower price point for a virtual feature or a virtual option to that show. I think another big thing when you are talking about reopening in that type of a space is you have to kind of be the police and the strict service. So I actually got on a plane about a week ago. It was my first time. I was not looking forward to it and very nervous about it. But the airline I flew with did temperature checks, which made me feel very confident. And the staff were saying things to people like, please raise your mask above your nose. And I think if you're going to reopen in a setting with a lot of people in public like that, you do kind of have to have that groundwork between yourself and your staff to have procedures for how you're going to move forward, how you're going to communicate, and how you're going to show comfortability and safety. Because even though you might have a few of those people get upset or irritated, it will provide that comfortable safety net for the rest of people, which will allow you to open and operate. And you'll see others continue to come into the space and actually enjoy it with you once they've seen you successfully run an event with people. I think the last thing I'll notate on that is different sports leagues have been doing a relatively good job of this as well. So I'm not sure what they're doing for you guys in Tennessee. I haven't seen a Titans game or anything, but in some of this, the collegiate sports and the professional sports, when they are at limited capacity, we've been seeing, again, this really spread out and really rigid separation of groups within a venue. So I think that's hopefully some good advice to kind of get you started or thinking. If you do want to send me a link to your Yelp page and have me take a look at if there were ways you could effectively communicate through the platform that you're not using, I can certainly do that as well. So just send me a little note.
Awesome. Any final questions? Well, thanks everyone for hopping on. Thank you, Emily, for sharing. And I will talk to everyone later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.